You are sitting in the cab, the sun is climbing, the dirt is dry and ready, and the screen lights up with a message that stops your whole day cold. Machine derated. See, dealer, you turn the key again. Nothing changes. A machine you paid for in full just decided it works for somebody else. Here is the part nobody said out loud to me. The reason European excavators are eating Caterpillar alive right now is not horsepower and it is not price. It is that they let you fix your own iron, and the American giants built machines designed to keep you paying forever. I know because I lived inside that trap, and I climbed out. Stay with me, because before we are done, I am going to hand you a federal filing dated January 15th, 2025, and a Colorado law that took effect January 1st, 2024, that together cracked this whole thing open. And if you already own a lockdown machine sitting in your shed right now, this is built for you too, not just the folks shopping for their next one. Let me take you back to the afternoon it happened to me. It was a Tuesday in late September, the kind of dry window you wait all year for, and I was moving dirt on a drainage job with a cat excavator I had bought, used, and paid off. The diesel exhaust fluid warning had been blinking for a couple hours. I topped it off with fresh fluid I bought that morning. Did not matter. The machine throttled itself down to a crawl, what they call limp mode, and then it may as well have been a boat anchor. I could not clear the code. There was no button, no menu, no override. The screen wanted a dealer, and the dealer was 90 miles away. Now here is what I want you to understand about that moment, because it is the whole game. My engine was fine. My hydraulics were fine. The fluid was full and fresh. The only thing broken was a sensor and a software rule that said if this reading is not perfect, punish the operator. That machine did not stop to protect the engine. It stopped to protect a business model. I called the dealer. They could not get a technician out for 6 days. 6 days in a dry September window. And when I asked what they would charge just to come plug in a laptop and read the code, the service writer told me flat $185 an hour, portal to portal, meaning the clock starts when the truck leaves their lot, 90 miles each way. Do that math. I was looking at $400 before anybody touched a wrench, for a fault I could see with my own eyes. But that was not the part that made me angry. The part that made me angry came later, when I found out the exact laptop tool that dealer would plug in, the one that would clear my code in about 90 seconds, existed. It was real. It was sitting on a shelf, and they would not sell it to me at any price. That tool is called CAT Electronic Technician. Caterpillar owners who have gone down this road know the name. It reads the codes, it clears the D-rate, it talks to the engine control module in a language the machine only speaks to authorized people. And the whole design philosophy is simple. The machine will tell the dealer everything and tell you almost nothing. You own the steel. They own the conversation. And it is not just CAT. Deere built the same wall with a tool they call Service Advisor. Same idea. The dealer plugs in, the software talks, the fault clears, the invoice prints. You stand there holding the key to a machine that will not obey you. I want you to sit with how strange that is. If your pickup throws a check engine light, you can drive to any parts store and they will read the code for free in the parking lot. A $40 scanner off the internet will do it in your driveway. But a $200,000 excavator or a $500,000 combine, the most expensive machine most of us will ever own, that one keeps its secrets locked behind a dealer login. Somebody decided that the more you paid, the less you were allowed to know. So how did we get here? Because it did not used to be this way, and that is the thread I started pulling. The iron my father ran you could fix with a wrench, a manual, and a Saturday. There was no software. A hydraulic problem was a hydraulic problem. You traced it, you fixed it, you got back to work. The machine had no opinion about who was allowed to touch it. It just ran. The change came with the electronics, and I want to be fair, the electronics did some good. Emissions came down. Fuel efficiency went up. But somewhere in there, the manufacturers realized something. Once a machine runs on software, the person who controls the software controls the machine. And once you control the machine, you control the man who bought it. That was the moment the business changed from selling iron to renting access to iron you already paid for. They tightened it slowly so nobody would notice the trap closing. First, it was diagnostic codes locked behind dealer tools. Then it was calibrations, so even if you replaced a part yourself, the machine would not accept it until a dealer blessed it with a laptop. Then came the emissions derates, the limp modes, the shutdowns, all wrapped in the language of protecting the engine and saving the planet, when the practical effect was to funnel every problem, big or small, straight to a dealer's service bay. And then came the piece that told me exactly what we were dealing with. Telematics. Caterpillar calls their version Product Link and the online side Vision Link. Deere has its own. These systems phone home. Your machine reports its location, its hours, its faults, its fuel burn, sometimes its exact position in your field, back to a corporate server, whether you ask for it or not. Now they will tell you this is a convenience. And I will admit, knowing your service intervals from your phone is handy, but think about what that connection really is. It is a wire that runs from your machine to their building, and a wire that can send information, can send commands. That is not a theory. Here is how I know it is not a theory. In 2022, when Russian forces looted a John Deere dealership in Melitopol, Ukraine, and hauled off combines and tractors worth around $5 million, they shipped that equipment hundreds of miles back toward Russia. And it never ran a day for them. Deere reached across a border and remotely locked every one of those machines into a brick. The thieves ended up with expensive scrap. Now, I understand the instinct to cheer that. Stealing is wrong, and the thieves got what they deserved. But look at what it proved in front of the whole world. These companies can reach into a machine anywhere on Earth and shut it off. That capability is real, it is proven, and it is sitting in the guts of equipment on farms and job sites all across this country right now. The only thing standing between you and a remote shutdown is a corporate policy you never got to read and cannot vote on. That is when someone profiting off your trust turns into something colder. Because they did not stumble into this. They engineered it. And once I saw that clearly, I could not unsee it. But knowing the trap exists does not pay the bills. So let me show you what it actually costs me and what it is costing you in real dollars, because the money is where this stops being a philosophy argument and starts being your livelihood. Go back to my 6-day wait in that September window. I lost the job to weather, the dirt got wet, the schedule blew up, and I ate the loss myself. When I finally sat down and added up what that single sensor fault cost me, the direct repair was the smallest line on the page. The dealer trip and diagnostic ran me over $400 just to clear a code. But the downtime, the days that machines sat dead in a window I would not get back, that was thousands. And I am not a special case. That is the ordinary math of this system. There is research on this, real research, not just barroom complaints. The United States Public Interest Research Group put out a report on farm equipment repair delays. They estimated that repair delays and the lack of access to fair repair were costing American farmers on the order of billions of dollars a year in lost productivity and downtime. Billions. That is not a rounding error. That is a tax on every owner who cannot fix his own machine on his own schedule. Think about what downtime means in our world. A city mechanic loses a day. The customer is annoyed. A farmer loses a day in harvest, he can lose the crop. There is a window when the moisture is right, when the weather holds, when the ground is fit, and that window does not care about the dealer's service schedule. When your machine is down and the only man allowed to fix it is booked out a week, you are not inconvenienced. You are ruined a little bit at a time. And here is the quieter cost, the one that shows up years later. Resale. When a machine is loaded with locks and telematics and dealer-only software, its value gets chained to that dealer network. A used machine that a normal person cannot service is worth less to a normal person. You paid for all that technology up front, and it comes back to bite you when you go to sell. The lock that gouged you on repairs gouges you again on the way out the door. Now stack it all up. The inflated diagnostic bill, the travel charges, the days lost, The parts you could have installed yourself but were not allowed to calibrate, the resale hit. That is the true price of a locked machine, and almost none of it shows up on the sticker when you buy it. It is hidden, spread out over years, designed so you never quite add it up. I added it up. And that is the day I started looking for the exit, and I want to tell you about a resource that helped me put the whole picture together before I took another step. When I was deep in this research, I came across a book that laid out exactly how we got here, and more importantly, what an owner can do about it. It is called Fixed or Owned, and the author also wrote Break the Lock. Both titles say everything you need to know about where they stand. These are not academic reads. They are written by someone who lived this fight and mapped the way out in plain language, the same way I am trying to do here. You can find them linked in the description below, and if you are the kind of person who wants the full picture before you make your next move on a machine or a dealer conversation, I cannot recommend them strongly enough. They filled in gaps I did not even know I had. Now, back to the exit I promised you, because the law and the filings are where this gets real. Now, I know exactly who is watching right now and starting to feel sick. You already own one of these machines. It is paid for, or you are paying for it, and you are sitting there thinking this video is for the lucky guy who gets to buy something new, not for you, stuck with the iron in your shed. I want to talk straight to you for a minute, because this next part is built for exactly your situation, and it is the part I wish somebody had told me 2 years ago. You are not as trapped as they want you to feel. There are things you can do this week with the machine you already have that pull real control back into your hands. I have done them. Let me walk you through them one at a time. First, get the operator and service literature for your specific model, and I do not mean the thin owner's pamphlet in the door pocket. I mean the real service manuals with the fault code tables. For a lot of machines, these exist, and copies circulate among owners and independent shops. When my cat threw that D-rate, the difference between panic and a plan was having a fault code chart that told me in plain terms that my code pointed to a sensor, not a blown engine. Knowledge is the first lock you pick. When you can read the code yourself, the dealer loses the power to scare you. Second, find your independent shop before you need it, not during a breakdown. There is a whole network of independent diesel and hydraulic mechanics out there who have quietly gotten their hands on the tools, the adapters, and the know-how to service machines the dealers want to monopolize. Some of them have legally acquired diagnostic software. Some built their expertise over decades. I found a fellow 2 counties over who could clear codes on my cat for a fraction of the dealer rate and would actually explain what he was doing. Build that relationship now. Have the number in your phone before the screen goes dark on you. Third, and this is a big one, be careful and deliberate about the telematics connection. On many machines, that phone home system can be identified, and owners have made informed choices about it. Now, I am not going to tell you to go rip wires out blind, because on some machines that connection is tangled up with functions you actually need, and you can create new problems. But you have every right to understand exactly what your machine is transmitting, to whom, and what it can do back to you. Read your dealer agreement. Find out what data you are handing over. You cannot control what you refuse to look at. The men who own their situation are the ones who read the fine print the salesman hoped they would skip. Fourth, source your parts through independent channels. Aftermarket and independent parts suppliers for filters, sensors, hydraulic components, and wear items exist and often cost a fraction of dealer pricing for the same quality. Every part you buy outside the dealer counter is a small vote for your own independence, and it keeps that alternate supply chain alive for the next man. And fifth, the most important one, talk to your neighbors and compare notes out loud. The single greatest weapon these companies have is that each of us suffers alone in his own shed, thinking he is the only one getting gouged. The moment I started talking about my D-rate at the co-op, 3 other men had the same story. One of them had already found the independent guy, another had the service manual on a thumb drive. Alone we were all trapped, together we were dangerous. Your fence line is your first union. Do those 5 things and you are no longer a helpless renter of your own machine. You are back in the driver's seat. But there is a limit to how free you can get inside a system built to cage you, and that is what pushed me to look hard at the iron coming out of Europe. Because while our giants were building better cages, somebody else was building machines that trust the man who owns them. Here is what I found when I actually started shopping and asking hard questions, and it is why the title of this video is not clickbait. It is happening. The European and the independent-minded manufacturers are taking real ground from Caterpillar and Deere, and they are doing it on exactly the issue that burned you and me. Look at where the growth is. Companies like Volvo out of Sweden, JCB out of Britain, Liebherr out of Germany, Wacker-Neuson out of Germany, they have been steadily gaining ground in the excavator and compact equipment market. And the compact machines, the ones a working farmer or a small contractor actually buys, that whole segment has been booming, and it is booming toward brands that do not treat the owner like a suspect. Now, why is that? Part of it is culture, and part of it is law. Europe has moved harder and faster on the right to repair as a basic principle. When your home market expects that a buyer can fix what he buys, you build machines that way, and those habits come across the ocean with the product. A lot of these machines use more standardized, more open diagnostic approaches. The fault information is more accessible. The philosophy is that the machine serves the operator, not the service department. I am not going to sit here and tell you every European machine is a saint and every American machine is a devil. That would be a lie, and you would smell it. Some import machines have their own headaches, parts can take longer to arrive on certain models, and emissions rules bite everybody who sells in this country. But the direction is unmistakable. When you talk to owners who jumped, the thing they say over and over is that they feel like they own the machine again. They can get in, they can read it, they can fix it. And they are voting with hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is the market punishing the lockdown. Every farmer and every contractor who chooses a machine he can service is sending a message that the accountants in those corporate towers understand better than any petition. Money talking is the only language monopoly respects. And the money is starting to walk out the door. But here is the thing. You should not have to buy a whole new machine from another continent just to be allowed to fix the one you already own. That is a heavy price to pay for a right that should have been yours the day you signed the check. And that brings me to the thing I promised you at the start, the buried filing and the law that together prove the exit is real, close, and open right now. So let me hand you what I dug up, because this is the part almost nobody has laid out plainly for you. On January 15th, 2025, the Federal Trade Commission, joined by the states of Illinois and Minnesota, filed suit against John Deere. Read that again. The top consumer protection agency in the United States took the biggest name in farm equipment to court. And the heart of the complaint is exactly what happened to me in that field. The government alleges Deere drove up costs and kept farmers dependent by keeping the full repair capability that Service Advisor software out of the hands of owners and independent shops, forcing repairs through its dealer network. That is not a farmer griping at the co-op. That is a federal filing with a date on it, sitting in the public record, saying the trap is real, and it did not come out of nowhere. Back in 2021, the Federal Trade Commission put out a report called Nixing the Fix, and in it the agency found there was scant evidence to justify all these repair restrictions manufacturers pile on. Then the agency committed to going after them. So when farmers spent years saying we are being squeezed, the record now shows the government looked, agreed, and acted. But the filing is the alarm bell. Here is the actual key to the door. And this is the part you can act on. In 2023, Colorado passed the Consumer Right to Repair Agricultural Equipment Act. It took effect January 1st, 2024. And it says something revolutionary in plain law. Manufacturers must provide owners and independent repair shops with the same parts, the same tools, the same software, and the same documentation that they give their own dealers on fair and reasonable terms. The same diagnostic tools. The tool they would not sell me at any price. That law says they have to make available. Colorado went first, but it is not going alone. Right to repair bills for equipment and electronics have been moving through state house after state house. This is a wave, and it is picking up speed because farmers and mechanics and ordinary owners kept the fight alive when the big players hoped it would die quietly. Here is what that means for you this week, no matter what color your machine is. The argument that you have no right to the tools is now a losing argument in law and in the court of public opinion. So use it. When a dealer tells you the diagnostic software is not available to owners, you say the word Colorado, and you say the phrase right to repair, and you watch the conversation change. Put your request in writing. Ask them plainly, in an email you keep, to provide the diagnostic tool and documentation for the machine you own. Even where the law has not passed yet, these companies know which way the wind is blowing, and a documented, informed owner is a very different animal than a scared one standing in a service bay. And there is a second key, quieter but just as real. Remember that man I mentioned, the advocates who kept this fight alive for years? People like the Nebraska farmer and inventor Kevin Kenny, who spent years hauling this issue in front of lawmakers when nobody in a suit wanted to hear it. The repair organizations that publish the studies and draft the bills. They built a network, and that network shares information, tools, and manuals with owners like you and me. You are not starting from scratch. There is a whole community that already picked these locks and left the door propped open for the next man. All you have to do is walk through. That is the exit. It was there the whole time, buried in fine print and legal filings the manufacturers hoped you would never read. One law in one state cracked it open. A federal lawsuit blew the cover off, and a community of stubborn owners kept the path clear. The machine in your shed is not a cage anymore unless you agree to treat it like one. So here is where we land. After everything, that message on the screen that grounded me, machine derated, see dealer, was never really about my engine. It was about who was in charge, and the day I stopped accepting that a company across the country got to decide when my paid-for iron would run, I got something back that they had quietly taken from all of us. I got my independence back. You are the kind of man who buys a machine to own it, not to rent it back one repair at a time. You always were. Somewhere along the way, they tried to turn that into a subscription, and you never signed up for that. Nobody did. So tell me something, and I mean it. Do not just watch and scroll off. I told you about my cat locking me down in a September window 90 miles from the nearest dealer. Now I want to hear yours. What machine put you through it? And what was the single worst invoice or the longest downtime it ever cost you? Type the make, the model, and the number that still makes your jaw tighten. Drop it in the comments right now. And tell me what county you are watching from, because I read them and so do the folks looking for the independent shop 2 counties over. Your comment might be the thing that frees the next man. If you are done being told you cannot fix what you own, then you are already one of us, and subscribing is just how you stand with the rest of the owners taking their iron back. Next time I am going to lay out the exact list of machines with the fewest software locks and the most open diagnostics, model by model, so you know precisely what to look for before you spend a dime. Stay with me. The door is open now, and we are all walking through it together. I lived that limp mode nightmare, and here I gave you the overview. But inside my membership, the circle, I take you the rest of the way, code by code, through the locked ECU bypass I actually used. In there, you can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be doing this alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel any time with one click. If you enjoyed learning about this, why not stay with me a little longer? Subscribe and look around the channel where you'll find plenty more stories just like this one, waiting right here for you.